And she said, you better go back to that doctor in Indianapolis. When he said, I went back to the specialist in Indianapolis. He looked at my records, and then he'd look at me, and then he'd look at the records, and he'd look at me, and he said, well, tell me, have you seen the doctor that did your original surgery since you saw me the last time? And he said, no. And he said, well, what did you do? He said, I prayed. And he said, well, you don't need a cornea transplant. And he said, there's just a small piece of scar tissue. And he reached in and pulled it out. And this man now has 20/20 vision. And he has worn glasses since he's 7 years old.
Boy, what a beautiful story. And to be able to document that when you presented your case to the Vatican to raise the status in the eyes of the Church of the founder of the Sisters of Providence, Mother Theodore Guerin.
That was the second miracle. And so that one had to go through the same process. I had to find 8 witnesses and 2 doctors who knew nothing about the case. And these 8 witnesses had to all go to Indianapolis to testify before the Metropolitan Tribunal, a canon lawyer, 2 canon lawyers, and another doctor had to listen to the testimony of each of these 9 persons, the 8 witnesses and the doctor. And after they listened, they would give the reports one at a time, and then they'd leave. And before they left, the women who had tape recorded it had to type up what they had said, submit it to them, and they had to sign it and say, yes, this is what I said, before they could leave. So it's all done very, very systematically and legally. That's the process.
Sister Marie Kevin, a long and complicated story, but you women of the order there, the Sisters of Providence, stuck with it for over a century and came out vindicated in proving that the woman who founded your order is indeed in heaven. Thanks again.
Well, I'm glad to, and I hope you're going to come visit us sometime.
Thanks again. This week we're talking about the wonderful world of nuns. And if you didn't go to Catholic schools and don't know much about nuns, you may not understand that these women around the world, and there are fewer and fewer of them, and the majority are now in their golden years, sacrifice just about everything, at least monetarily, in order to serve their church and their fellow sisters and their students. We'll be back in a minute with the woman who is the head of the order, Sister Marie Kevin's boss, on this week's American Montage.
Packers.
Vikings.
Red State.
Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But no matter how different we are, we're all connected, and we can all make a difference. That's why United Way brings people, expertise, and resources together to improve the education, income, and health of our communities, the building blocks for a better life. When we live united, our efforts, magnified by others, add up to real change. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly, so do our communities. But real change won't happen without you.
Live united.
So let's look beyond our differences.
Live united.
One by one, let's make a difference. Let's reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all.
Live united.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This week we're talking about the world of nuns as seen through the eyes of one of the orders headquartered in the Midwest, and that is the Sisters of Providence. Now, if you didn't go to Catholic schools and you haven't had much of a chance to meet or associate with nuns, the whole idea of being a nun may seem very, very foreign to you. The Sisters of Providence, headquartered in St. Mary of the Woods, Indiana, was the order that sent the nuns to the grade school and high school I attended in southern Indiana. So I grew up thinking, well, nuns are normal. And if you don't feel that way, you just haven't talked to a nun very long. We had been talking to Sister Marie Kevin, who did an awful lot of work to make sure that the founder of the order, Mother Theodore, was eventually recognized a saint. That was her last major assignment, Sister Marie Kevin. But now we have joining us from the headquarters in the Midwest, Sister Denise Wilkinson. who's the head of the Sisters of Providence. And Sister, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I know you got to hear the first half of this week's show when I was talking to Sister Marie Kevin. You know, every time I've had a discussion about nuns with people, that whole idea comes up that nuns just beat the holy heck out of you. They break your knuckles with rulers. I didn't have that experience at all. I always thought your order of nuns were very nurturing and kind. Disciplinarians, yes, but not physically that way. They would look at me and say, Dennis, don't do that. Do you get tired of people, whenever the topic of nuns comes up, that they think of you as being tyrants?
Dennis, I am always mystified by the stereotype of sisters bearing rulers, because I'm like you, I went all through Catholic school, never met it in my whole life. It warmed my heart when you said that you experienced the Sisters of Providence as being nurturing, because that's certainly how I knew them in my own experience, how I knew us.
Sister Denise, you're a native of Chicago. You went to St. Mary of the Woods for your college training, and now you are the big chief there. You're the general superior. Do you think that the members of your order understand how your fellow students feel about you in such a positive way? And almost everyone I know who went through schools where your franchise of nuns taught, I think, look at you that way. Are you aware of the positive image the Sisters of Providence has?
Do we know it? I don't know that we know it. I think one thing that's important in us knowing it is what you asked Marie Kevin. What's it like to be a former teacher and have former students come back and visit you? I think the sisters, like most people, aren't in their lives for what the return is that will come back to us, but are simply following our lives, trying to be good people and loving people. But it sure is nice to get the affirmation that it worked or that it was working. Dennis, can I tell you a beautiful story that I just heard?
Absolutely. We've got a lot of minutes left.
One of our sisters who's now 96, Marcelin, Sister Marcelin, has been in contact with a woman that she taught in 1943 in third grade. And they have kept in contact over all these years. And this woman, this former student of Sister Marcelin's, just had a very serious stroke. And the woman's daughter didn't know who else to call. She wanted someone to pray for her mother. And the daughter remembered that her mom had been in contact with the Sister of Providence for years and years. So she found the number for Sister Marcelin and called Marcelin to tell her about her mom's condition, and then ask for prayers of Marcelin and all of the sisters. So I know the stereotype is out there, but my experience is just so different. And stories like that, or you calling Michaela, I just think it puts the lie to the stereotype.
And in case you missed it earlier, Sister Michaela Galvin was my senior homeroom teacher, and it's always fun to stay in touch with her. And I wish we could have had her here on the show, but she didn't want to be interviewed. I can safely say, and I mean this in all honesty, that a lot of my personality and my success over the years, a lot of that stems from my years in Catholic schools with the Sisters of Providence and the priests and the teachers we had back in Indiana. And I'm sure you had what amounts to a mission statement that everybody looked at and marched in time with, even before they were called mission statements.
Well, and you asked about the mission statement. Our mission statement is to promote the loving designs of God in service of in works of love, mercy, and justice and service among God's people. And I think in terms of the arts or music, we got that right from Mother Theodore. She came, as you know, from France, landed in New York, took her overland trip here to Indiana. And one of the things that she was always so surprised about was how much the Americans, as she called us, loved music. And came to know very soon that, as she said, no piano, no pupils. And that has just followed us for years and years. And I think, again, it's that commitment to the whole person, the bringing out of a person's spiritual life, a person's spiritual side that, of course, art and music do so well.
Well, you can talk about music and the arts and English and that kind of thing. I think a lot of people would be surprised, not only when we talk about the Sisters of Providence, but nuns in general, how many of them are sports fans. And I guess legendary among them in the Sisters of Providence was Sister Mary Pius, who had this affinity for grade school students, particularly young boys playing baseball, and used that as a way to further their education.
Well, I can only affirm that what you say is true. It's still true. Our sisters up at Guerin College Prep, Providence Cristo Rey, I think it's maybe part of our American culture as well. I suppose for our younger members, Title IX didn't hurt any either, now that women are participating more in sports. But, Dennis, it's funny that you should say it, because a man from Terre Haute just called me today and said he had 4 tickets. He knew I could find 4 sisters who would like to use them. So evidently the reputation is far-reaching.
Sister Denise, earlier we were talking at length to Sister Marie Kevin about the work that had to be done to get your founder, Mother Theodore Guerin, recognized as a saint. In about what era did Mother Theodore die? How long ago was that?
She died in 1856.
And I think her life is an excellent example of the impact one person can have on subsequent generations.
Oh, yes. I think a gift that she left us, Dennis, and you'll appreciate this, I think, she was a writer. So I think we feel that we know her from her journals, her letters, the writings that she left. And what's apparent in her journals and letters is how human she was. She loved deeply. She had deep feelings, which she expressed freely. She had high expectations of other people and of herself. And she had the most wonderful capacity to love a person just as he or she was. And because she left that evidence in her writings, I think we feel very close to her.
I may have this story all messed up, but I remember from my childhood one of the members of your order recounting how once a year there was a special day to honor your founder and to read from the history about those early nuns, and it would give the nun's name and then say alias and give the woman's original name. And I remember that the young girl who had just come to the convent was saying, let's say, Sister St. Benedict Elias Jane Doe instead of alias, and all the nuns had a hard time to keep from laughing.
We used to have the reader stand. If you come and visit, we'll show you. And if you were the novice reading or the young professed reading, there was a senior sister who was noting down every word you mispronounced.
Years ago, when there were more nuns in all the orders, there were separate convent buildings in towns, usually close by the priest's house, the church, the high school. In my hometown, there was this beautiful building, and I can remember wanting to go in there because it was so peaceful.